Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plots, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. Snakes are beneficials in the garden, but running into the wrong one could ruin your day. Also, what are the best landscape plants for Tennessee? That's just ahead on the Family Plots, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Andy Williams. Andy is the manager at Lichterman Nature Center, and Carol Reese is here. Ms. Carol is a horticulture specialist with UT Extension. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chris.
Great. Andy, we always love having you here. You always bring us nice critters.
Not me.
Oh, we love having you here as well.
Here, you can hold the snake.
Yeah, I will.
Well, look, let's talk about the benefits of snakes in the garden, because we always hear the bad, right?
Oh yeah, well,
let's talk about the good.
Well, of course there are a ton of benefits, but no one feels neutrally about a snake. But you just think about the hype and not the reality. Right. But they're an important part of the food web. They eat all sorts of things. We'll talk a little bit more about this milk snake in a minute, but they're very opportunistic feeders. They will eat slugs, they'll eat worms. As they get older, they'll start eating mice and rodents and all sorts of things. There are a variety of water snakes. Everyone focuses on water moccasins and such, but there are also a lot of other water snakes that live in and around the water that help take out diseased fish out of fish populations and help thin the herd and kind of keep them on their toes, as it were. But particularly in residential areas where we have upset nature, we put in these tame grass lawns and that sort of stuff. The food chains and food webs just get out of control. In particular, that gets out of control in the way of rodents. And so it's kind of interesting. The more you learn about snakes, more you learn how much you really need them around the house. But it also gives you some insight if you don't, if you're so afraid of snakes you don't want the benefits, some ways to control them. So, for example, that snakes like this one at an adult size that eat mice and rats and rodents and such, you'll be shocked, but they like the same habitats as their prey animals. And so if you've got areas with tall grass, a lot of boards, flat pieces, places to hide that foster the development of particularly rodents and such, you're bound to have a lot of snakes because they like the same habitat in general, and they like the same habitat because there's a lot to eat.
Sure.
But with the mice and rats, just like most of us give our dogs and cats flea and tick preventatives, well, the mice don't get that, and so so they're covered in fleas and ticks and that sort of stuff. And so a side benefit of having healthy snake populations is that it helps keep the fleas and ticks under control.
Interesting.
There's a study, it's actually with a timber rattlesnake, which is a much larger snake, but over the course of the year, with the rodents it eat, it consumed, they counted between 2,000 and 4,000 ticks that were stuck to the mice. Hosta enthusiasts, how many people like voles in their garden?
Right, you're exactly right.
And again, hostas, you typically have the mulch, which are like vole highways and all like that to get to the hostas and other delicious plants. Well, snakes love that sort of stuff, right. And so when you have snakes in the yard, well, your vole population is going to be under control. Right. There are native king snakes that actually they're not as opportunistic. If they have a choice, they prefer meal as another snake. So if you like snakes, that's it's kind of plus or minus. But they are said to be immune from other snakes' venom. So if you don't like snakes like copperheads, which are fairly ubiquitous, we have Tennessee has timber and pygmy rattlesnakes, but they typically are more rural sorts of snakes. Okay. They don't like all the fuss that goes around the garden. But when you see snakes, it's always startling because you hear the stories, and no matter how much you know, your first thought is it venomous? Yes. And of course there are a number of ways to tell. But whether it's venomous or non-venomous, anything with a bite, with a mouth, can bite you. Sure. So just look at it, and if you see it first, just take 3 steps back and walk away. It's pretty easy. I feel like a broken record though at work. I tell people of all ages, what to do when you see a snake. Take 3 steps, or any animal you don't know, take 3 steps back and walk away. But apparently it's really hard to say that enough. Right before you asked me to come on, in the month of May, there are not 1 but 2 national news articles about people that just had to go touch them.
Yeah, picking them up. Yeah, those are good stories.
Snake bites are relatively rare, and there's a relatively low incidence of being bitten. 40% of most venomous snake encounters where someone gets bitten involve someone handling them.
Sure.
And 40% of those people are frequently alcohol's involved. I mean, it's really if you got to drink and walk around,
right?
That's an especially good time.
Sort of like drinking and driving. Yeah. Don't drink and handle snakes.
Yeah, there's surprisingly few combinations where that's a good element. But there's a guy in Alabama who picked up what he thought was a harmless milk snake. Picked it up. And he let his kids examine it, and he was going to save it for his brother.
Wow.
Clearly he didn't get the message about not backing up, but they are similarly marked. And one thing I do have to say, this happened in Alabama, but we're not part of the natural range of coral snakes.
That was a coral snake.
But it was a coral snake. I brought a replica of a coral snake, and you can see they had the same warning colors, the red, the black, and the yellow. There are all sorts of rhymes. Once again, if you have to remember a nursery rhyme, was it red on black, friend of Jack, red on yellow can kill a fellow.
Yeah, I remember those.
but actually, my personal favorite way to remember it is that if red and yellow are the colors on the stop sign, and so even if you're just tempted, just stop on that. But as an extra bonus today, I brought you each a coral snake reminder.
How about that?
Cool. That's adorable.
Yeah, and as you notice, it's really not. This replica gives you a better idea of how the actual bands and all appear. But you can see that the red touches the yellow, and that's a good thing to remember.
Pretty cool.
But even after you've killed a snake, a lot of people their instinct is just chop the head off. Another national news article I brought, it was in the New York Times last week, and it sounds like fake news, but it's real. Someone in Texas chopped the head off a rattlesnake, and so he severed it in 2, but he had to pick up the head. What could go wrong? Well, the answer is that they have a really bite reflex that is super strong and persists for up to an hour after you chop the head off.
Amazing.
But I don't know why he felt the need to pick it up or to kill it.
I have to say that's kind of fair. It was sort of revenge for the snake. Hopefully the consequences weren't quite as dire for the human.
Well, actually they were, because most snakes conserve their venom.
Yeah.
If you get bitten by a juvenile or baby snake, they don't know how to control the venom, but they want it to last.
But did it kill him?
No.
Then it's not as dire.
No, it's not as dire, but it required something like 3 or 4 times the amount of antivenom than it would have originally taken. Because the snake was just a bite reflex, and so when the snake bit, it ejected a lot of the venom.
That's interesting stuff, Andy. And while we're talking about snake bites, well, guess who got bitten by a snake?
Well,
can you share with us?
I did,
your experience?
and luckily I knew the percentages, that the mortality rate is like 0.001%, and so I was never afraid. I did a lot of research afterwards, and it turns out that I did a lot of the wrong things. Like I had to walk back to the house. I was well down in a valley and had to go back up to the hill. But it was really not, I was never afraid that it was going to be fatal, because the only people that usually die from copperhead bites are those who have anaphylactic shock. So if you live for a few minutes. And the other thing I learned that I think is very important, we were always told to kill the snake and bring it with you so you could know what kind. And now I know that you don't, and I didn't anyway. I didn't ever consider killing the beautiful copperhead that bit me. But they use the same type of antivenom no matter what the poisonous snake is here in Tennessee, because it's going to be the same kind.
They're all hemotoxins.
Yes, it's the very same one. So don't kill the snake and bring it, and certainly don't risk any more damage by trying to catch and kill the snake, because it's not going to matter once you get to the hospital. And even whether or not you get any venom is a judgment call.
Wow. And you didn't kill the snake. I want
No, I admired the snake. He was there first. The only real lasting damage he did is that I feel like I'm a little more cautious now, and I used to be oblivious, which I enjoyed.
All right.
So.
Well, Andy, we appreciate that information. That was good stuff.
Oh, well, thank you.
Appreciate that education about snakes. A lot of stuff I didn't know before, I know now.
That's right.
So don't handle the snake, folks. All right? 3 steps back, you'll be just fine. Thanks again, Andy.
You're welcome.
All right. There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. All right, Miss Carol, you know we love having you here.
Thanks, Chris. I always love being here. We have so much fun.
We do. We have a good time.
Yeah.
Look, Summer Celebration is coming up, right? Can we talk briefly about Summer Celebration?
We sure can. It's going to be July 12th, always the second Thursday in July, and 9 to 5, $5 per person, which is an absolute bargain for a full day of speakers. I always want to encourage people, remember, yes, it is a hot day, but we have 2 auditoriums going inside all day with speakers, and you would never have to repeat a talk. You could stay inside all day if you like.
All right. So let's talk about best plants for Tennessee.
Well, that is one of my topics this year, and the idea was, you know, our communication specialist, Ginger Rousey.
Ginger.
She said, people really want to know what Carol and my colleague, Jason Reeves, plant in their own garden. And having built a house in 2012, I'm certainly trying to get my landscape established now. And what do I plant in my own garden? And what I think I really couldn't live without. But she wants us to do like a top 10, and that's like crazy. 10 plants?
Right, just 10?
I mean, so I'm kind of trying to do it seasonally. I'm thinking spring, summer, fall, winter interest. And we're dividing it up. I'm going to do the herbaceous side, and Jason's going to do the woody. Usually we do reverse, but we decided we just kind of want to shake it up this time. So I'm going to try to stick to herbaceous for mine, although of course you can do the whole thing with both, and I certainly do both in my own garden. So what did I plant for sure? It's common, but an adorable plant, I'm just going to start with spring, as that seems logical, is our little moss phlox. I love the little phlox. Subulatas, they just do great ground covers. They also serve as a winter interest because they're evergreen. They're highly durable. You can get a range of colors of different kinds of pinks and blues and purples, even whites, if you decide that some of the pinks might clash with your coral azaleas. So I've got to have that. I've got a little crazy over columbines, which to me were not a huge favorite to begin with. They look delicate, but they're really not. They're tough and durable, and they reseed generously, and I love that fact. I really fell in love with one at work called Woodside Variegated, and it came to us as a golden green variegation with cobalt blue flowers.
Wow.
And as it reseeds into our mulch, it comes back both gold, green, and variegated, but it's become now where it's mostly gold, but still has the cobalt blue flowers. So I took some of the seeds home and shook them around in my little woodland area, and this was the first year they really bloomed prolifically, and I'm spreading them around to other parts of the garden. And our native columbine, which I adore, because the hummingbirds love it as well, and they are very, very tough plants. That spring ephemeral kind of disappears as it gets hot, so you're going to have to start, then I like to go into successional gardening. Later phlox would be woodland phlox, which can be used in sun or shade, and will give you a good bloom season to take you on into the hotter days of summer. Of course, there's tons of selections for summer. I'm a big fan of the coneflowers, and I love some of the newer ones that have come out. The powwow wild berries have been very good. I know, powwow, you kind of stretch your mouth when you say it. There's a hard one to forget. And they've been really good because some of the new colors, even though they're exciting, have not been very durable perennials for us. That's a very friendly one for wildlife. And those of us who care about the pollinators, of course, are going to add those. And everybody knows about the Rudbeckia fulgida, the black-eyed Susan. But there's a bunch of other good Rudbeckias. The Hirtas are often just annuals. They'll reseed generously, but why wouldn't one go get a pack of seeds of Rudbeckia hirta, also called Gloriosa daisy? The Trilobas, there's a bunch of other Rudbeckias that I think are valuable additions. I have a big place, but not necessarily my house, a modest little home, but a big landscape and a lot of acreage. So whereas a lot of people like little plants, I like big, bold plants. I want big impact, a lot of bang for the buck. So having been a fan of the tropical look all my life, I'm going for the cannas and the elephant ears that have proven to be more perennial for me. So I have to have Bengal tiger. That's my favorite canna with that gorgeous golden striped foliage, because even when it's not in bloom, it's so beautiful. And Tropicana as well has a beautiful foliage. Both have orange blooms. Tropicana tends to get a little faded looking later in the summer, and I like to mingle those with the elephant ears. An elephant ear that I have found to be very durable, almost aggressive, is one called a lustrous. And a lustrous has the black leaf, and most of the black leaf forms are not perennial, but a lustrous has a black leaf with a strong green vein. It's not going to get quite as big and lush as some of them, but it spreads nicely for me, and so I can move it around and put it in different parts of the garden. And just one more, it's not a perennial, but I always grow it every year from seed, would be the castor bean plant. Now, a lot of people are worried about that because it does have a poisonous bean. So be aware that if you've got kids or critters that might eat the poisonous beans, but the big red form, Carmen or Carmen.
As they say, red all summer.
Yes.
I mean, that's the fruit's kind of interesting with
beautiful.
with the kind of spiky, and you probably wouldn't have moles around it, I guess. With
that was the old theory. My granddaddy grew them and called them mold killer bushes. So
how about that?
Do you think that plays out, or?
I don't think so. In fact, I don't even think the beans are quite as poisonous as rumored to be from recent research. You really have to eat a good number of them to be killed dead. It used to be, you know, you thought you ate one, you were
yeah, the ricillinic acid, I think, is the toxin.
Right. But anyway, I just want to throw that out there for people to be cautious. But gosh, again, so much bang for the buck from a few seeds. Getting into fall, I'm really getting into the asters and the goldenrods that aren't terribly invasive. Again, that extends the plants for the pollinators, a lot of those butterflies that are migrating north through that time. They're migrating south in the fall. And people think of monarchs, but the sulfurs also migrate. A lot of the salvias that are late blooming, and goodness, how did I leave out salvias for summer?
Love salvias.
I'm a huge salvia file, love them, and a lot of them show off well in the fall with like Mexican bush sage. And I love the combination of the old Mexican bush sage with the old autumn joy sedum. I know that's kind of an old plant and there's newer colors and exciting foliage, but the autumn joy, I love that color. They're very sturdy, and I leave them up through the winter, which we're getting into the winter, for winter interest, with a little cap of snow on them. They look really good. Some evergreen perennials for winter interest would include the sweet flag. It's kind of a grassy. I love any of the sedges. Evergold, Everillo is particularly spectacular, a solid gold sedge. And the hellebores, which have become commonplace and easy to find now, are both evergreen and winter bloomers. So that wraps us back around toward spring. And who doesn't love a few daffodils?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't like to overdo them because you got to look at that foliage for so long. So I do mingle them with the other plants as well, so that I can hide the ugly foliage.
Yeah, you can put them in the back of the bed or the back of the yard.
That's right. And they do well in the woodland setting, which finally I do have a shade garden established, which leads me back to one that's not as common, and that is, I forgot to mention, the Japanese anemone, which is a really easy to grow shade lover that looks very delicate. It looks like a beautiful pink or white poppy in the woodland landscape. I'm going back again to something I meant to mention. And I know you love the natives of the Spigelia, Miralandica. Sometimes called Indian pink. I don't like that name because there's a lot of other plants called Indian pink. And Spigelia is fun and pretty to say. It used to be hard to find. You can find Spigelia pretty readily now in the landscape. I have tons of other plants that are going to be in the program. Hope people will show up because I have good handouts per season, and I will specify which are easy to find.
Okay, and as we wrap up, tell us one more time about Summer Celebration.
July 12th at the Experiment Station in Jackson, west.tennessee.edu. We'll give you all the information you need, a map, and you can print out the program so you'll know what programs you'd like to attend. Tours inside and out, big tent full of vendors with plants and garden art.
It's going to be a good time.
Always is. You'll be there.
I'll be there. And it's probably going to be hot too, right?
That's right. Bring your pest for diagnosis, your
Yes.
leaves. You can
Yes.
do an instant soil test there as well.
That's right. All right, so we hope you come to Summer Celebration. Hope to see you there.
Cannas are an iconic garden plant for the South. We sort of associate them with hot, lush, tropical summers as we often have. Perfect for this site with soils that stay a little bit wet and a lot of heat and sun. But they are subject to a certain number of pests, and one is some insects that will do leaf damage. This is very typical of Japanese beetle damage, and you see the skeletonized leaves, the feeding. The other one's probably going to be leaf roller, which is very different. They feed when the leaf is curled tightly, so you'll see a circle that goes in dots all the way across the leaf. Now both can be easily controlled with Sevin, but I don't like to do that because Sevin is so very hard on our bees and our other pollinators. You know, the thing to do, maybe if you didn't want to use those insecticides, would simply be to cut off the damaged foliage. And the new foliage will come out quickly. They just give it some extra water and fertilizer and you'll get new lush foliage. So that would probably be my choice.
All right, here's our Q&A session. Andy, you jump in there and help us out, all right?
Sure.
These are good questions we have here with pictures too. So here's our first viewer email. What is this plant? I've seen it before, but can't remember what it is called. And this is from Rick in Corinth, Mississippi.
Oh,
you want to? Let's
it's
throw
one
it
of
to
my
you.
favorite plants.
It's your favorite plant, Andy?
It's not native, but it's a Cleome.
Cleome. Right.
And they reseed if you got it. It could have come back from last year or again. It's good for pollinators. I've got actually a big patch in my yard behind some natives, but it has a small footprint. It'll get taller and taller. One thing you might want to try if you want constant bloom, at some point cut the big seed head off and see if you can get some lateral growth, although they're really tall, pretty interesting plants, but they reseed freely. If you got it this year and it's happy, you're going to have it next year too from fresh plants.
Okay.
You can share it with friends.
Yeah, lots of friends.
I also had a friend with a cat named Cleome. I thought that was a cool cat name. So if you're looking for a new pet name, think about Cleome.
Cleome. So there you have it, Rick. It's Andy's favorite plant.
Well, it's one of my favorites.
One of your favorites.
Yeah, we have no favorite.
Yeah, y'all have.
Remember,
y'all like a lot of plants. It's one of your favorites.
300 favorites.
It's my favorite plant right now.
Right now.
You know.
So it's his favorite plant right now, Rick. All right, thanks for the question. All right, here's our next viewer email. What are these plants that have come up in my backyard? Is it something I can keep? I've seen them all over the landscape here in Memphis. And this is from Paula right here in Memphis. And I've seen it everywhere as well.
Shall we all say it together?
You want to say it?
It is
Elderberry.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're really, they're blooming like hydrangeas this year. This is
They are
one of the
all
best
over the
years I've
place.
ever
Andy,
seen.
I have
It
a
is.
theory on that.
Uh-oh.
I'm thinking there's maybe, you know, the roadsides are just rife
Yeah.
with it. And I'm thinking maybe
are.
they've developed some herbicide resistance because these are places that get sprayed a lot.
Yeah.
I'm
Think
seeing them all
about
up down
that.
railroad
Oh.
tracks and highways and fence lines where they've been
think
trying to
about
kill
that.
out other things, and the elderberries are starting to really take over, which is a good thing for the wildlife.
Yeah.
The berries are herbal medicine, jellies.
Right.
They're great for wildlife, but they are a little messy. But the blooms are just
They're beautiful.
They're beautiful.
They're
They are.
beautiful.
Yeah, I love them.
Yep.
Wow. But yeah, I didn't think about that because you are seeing them along the roadsides and
That just
highways.
struck me last year. I started thinking, why are we seeing so many
many.
elderberries?
There are a lot this year.
well. We frequently talk about this being a good year for this plant, that plant.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about being a good year for ticks. You know, how do you? It's hard to gauge. It's really hard to gauge what constitutes a good or bad year for stuff.
Okay.
And whether it's a good year for ticks, that makes it a bad year for humans.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Ms. Paula, there you have it, elderberry, and yes, keep it. Keep it.
Yes.
All right, here's our next viewer email. I have 2 fig trees in pots. They are 2 to 3 feet tall and sprouting figs. Can I plant fig trees now in the summer, or should I wait till cooler weather? And this is from William in Somerville, Tennessee.
Plant.
Plant.
If you wait till cool weather, figs, if we have a hard winter, they're not going to be well
That's right.
established. And you can plant anything in the summer if you're willing to water. You just
Yeah,
gotta
that's gonna be the
sure
key.
you water.
You got the
So
water.
I've just planted one myself because mine got killed this winter because I planted last fall gambling on another mild winter.
And the winter got you.
Yeah, it's a southern plant, but this is kind of the north part where you can grow it successfully. You know, by southern, it's not native, but it just it's so many folk tales and you know, fig preserves and that sort of stuff. Every Southerner probably should have one, even if it's not from around here.
It loves the heat. It's just kind of an heirloom, heritage kind of thing. And again, the birds just love it. I mean, you may not like the fact that the birds love it, but if you do like to plant, just so the wildlife can share a little bit.
Okay. So there you have it, William. Plant. Sandy, Miss Carrie out of town. That was fun.
It was.
That was fun. Thank you much. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. If you want more information about snakes or great landscape plants, go to familyplotgarden.com. The website also has bonus videos that did not air on TV. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.